Hey there! I thought I'd make this video because last week I shared a few pictures in a Facebook group I'm in of some weekly meal prep I did, and my post got quite a few comments and likes, so I figured this week I'd take some video. I love this sort of content. I'm always looking for new recipes, tips, and tricks to make things run a little smoother and more efficiently. Before I get started in the kitchen, I want to tidy up my room and my kids' room because I know this prep is going to take all day, and when I'm done, I want bedtime to go smoothly. I just feel like somewhat tidy rooms are going to help make that happen. We shall see. So now that the kids are settled and the bedrooms are somewhat put together, I need to find something to listen to. I love having something playing in my ear while I work. Today I thought I'd listen to American Gospel. Guys, this is such a good documentary. I've probably watched it more than 10 times. I highly recommend it. The first thing we're going to start off with today are pancakes. We homeschool and start our day with Bible and history or science over breakfast. I like to make my kids a big hot breakfast because I find when their mouths are full, their ears are open. This is my favorite pancake recipe and I've tried many. I'll link it below. I have quadrupled this recipe. I use 2 big mixing bowls, making a double recipe in each bowl. I use a 1/4 cup measuring cup to pour the batter, which make the perfect sand dollar sized pancakes. Once they're done, I layer them on a cooling rack, each layer divided by parchment paper. Once they're frozen, I transfer them to a freezer bag. All these pancakes should last us at least 2 weeks. This really helps our school day run smoother and cuts down on morning dishes. Now that those are done, we are going to be moving on to pizza. I love having pizza in the freezer. This recipe is pretty standard. I'll list the ingredients down below. I'm using this recipe times 5 today. I've got 5 bowls of very warm water mixed with yeast and sugar. I've stirred each one, dissolving the sugar and letting that yeast activate. So what I do is I mix my sugar, yeast, and water mixture in with 1 cup of flour. Once that's all mixed together, I add my salt and oil. I read somewhere that salt kills the yeast, so adding that salt after some of the flour is incorporated helps them to get along better. After that, I slowly add the remaining 1.5 cups of flour. Dough has a mind of its own. Sometimes I don't even need a full cup more. After kneading each ball of dough, I lightly oil the outside and place them one by one into a large baking dish covered in plastic. I like to let them slowly rise in the fridge overnight. I find that slow rise gives me a better crust. So here we are the next day. I'm going to separate my dough, kneading and forming each section back into nice round balls. You're going to need a well-floured surface for this. After that, I'm going to cut each ball in half, which will give me 10 really good sized individual pizzas. So now here's the fun part. I'm going to roll out each one of these. I feel like everyone has their own method. I usually start off with my hands, then I go back and forth with the rolling pin a bit. I lightly oil the top and then place it on the pan, oil side down. From there, I'm usually able to stretch and form it a bit more on the pan before it goes into the oven. I bake it at 375 for about 4 to 7 minutes, just until the crust starts to brown. Keep a close eye. As they're coming out of the oven, I place them on a cooling rack, separating each layer with parchment paper. Once they're all done, into the freezer they go till they're completely frozen. So here we are on day 3 of these pizzas. I promise you this process doesn't typically take me 3 days, but we've had some things come up here and there, including a trip to the grocery store because I ran out of salt. Anyways, here we are. These crusts are completely frozen. I'm just wrapping a few up without toppings. Sometimes for lunch, my kids like to top them themselves. The others I'm going to top with a semi-homemade sauce I made yesterday, which is just whole canned tomatoes that I run through my food processor with whatever fresh herbs I have growing in the garden. I then add some sugar, salt, and whatever else I have in my spice cabinet. I use a little tomato paste to thicken it up. I'm keeping it really simple with the toppings today. I'm just using cheese and pepperoni. We actually don't have pepperoni here in Botswana. We recently took a trip to Europe and I bought this pepperoni in the Amsterdam airport. So my kids are really going to enjoy this pepperoni pizza. I should have bought more. So as you can see, I'm just stacking the pizzas one on top of the other, separated by parchment paper, and they're gonna go back into the freezer again until they're completely frozen. Once they're frozen, I'll pull them out, wrap each one in cellophane, and then we'll have frozen pizza. Okay, so the last thing I'm going to make are biscuits. I got this recipe from my best friend. Shout out to Melissa. These biscuits are so good, y'all. I'll share it down below. I am tripling this recipe for a total of 18 biscuits. These biscuits actually come together really quickly. I just measured out all my dry ingredients times 3. Then I'm going to cut up a cold stick of butter for each bowl. Once I have the dry ingredients and the cut up butter, I'm going to dump it in the food processor and just let it go until that butter is incorporated. From the food processor, I return each one to the bowl and mix in the wet ingredients, which is honey and milk. So I'm just gonna mix those wet ingredients in until it just comes together. Then I'm gonna turn it out onto a lightly floured surface and just kind of knead it into a flat disc. I don't use a biscuit cutter. I just cut them with a knife into square pieces. I get 6 square biscuits out of each one of these, and I'm just storing them on top of those pizzas. Actually, I lined the top of the pizza with parchment paper, stacked the biscuits just like I did the pancakes, and I'm just gonna let them freeze in there overnight. Here they are the next day. So that's it, y'all. I hope you enjoyed my first ever video. Please like, subscribe, and share if you like what you saw. I'll be in the kitchen again next weekend, so stay tuned.